All right, Coach Ricky Davie. We got an important game coming up this weekend, of course, as everybody's looking forward to it after a long and very competitive season here. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of the game, the playoff, the Georgia UPSL Georgia playoff final, I wanted to get your thoughts first of all on you taking over at Atlanta United, the U19s, the academy there after Jose Silva had done such a great job of building the foundation there in the UPSL with the team. What were your thoughts coming in to take over as the new head coach?
No, yeah, really excited. I mean, Jose did a wonderful job with the group, and it's always an interesting group to manage with so much player movement, and that's honestly the biggest, I'd say, problem. But it's not a problem. It's fun and it's part of what we do at Atlanta United. But yeah, it was he left the team in a great place after the fall. So in terms of taking over and knowing the group and having a good relationship with the players, that was already there. I'd spent a good amount of time around the group, but obviously a different beast coming from U14, which is where I was before U19. So I had done 2 years pretty much with the U14s and was keen to kind of get into an older age group. So yeah, was really excited. Knew the group beforehand pretty well, so the transition was pretty seamless. But obviously some things that you just don't encounter with 13-year-old kids, the same as you do with 17, 18-year-old players. So yeah, it was good. And like I said, Jose was fantastic with the group and left it in a really good position for whoever was going to take over at that point. So I was super happy to get the nod and take it over from him.
Well, that's great. I mean, you've done a wonderful job there. Of course, you've come back in and won the division, or gotten your position to win the playoff final, and getting very close to winning the division again in your first year, or your first season there with the U19s. But was it what you had expected when you took over, when you got into the UPSL season? What was the reaction to the competition that you faced when, with the U19s? I'm sure it was a lot different than it was with the younger club.
Yeah, I'd like to say I had a good grasp of it. Obviously, with the league's popularity growing, obviously teams like KSA with Lemenyo, very popular in the area. So I'd been around it and watched games. I think the biggest learning curve for me was just the kind of like the in game. That it's a very tactical game. It's very also emotional, and sometimes, as coach, as players, you need to have a good grasp of your own emotions and the emotions and the ups and downs within the game. I think if I'm being completely honest, I think the first 3-4 games, I think us as a group, we struggled with that. And I think that was part of our learning curve. And I think you saw it not only with the results, but with performances the second half of the season. I think we really came to terms with what was needed, and understanding that there were moments in the game that we could really take control, and moments where we weren't in control, but that was okay. At certain times within the games, I think I look back on North Georgia away, we had a really good result, but there were moments in the game where we didn't have the ball, and I felt like we were really okay with that. And that was kind of the first time this season that we were okay with not having it, and we looked really mature in that performance. So I think that the biggest learning curve was just the in-game, managing the in-game emotions, the ups and downs of the game. And ultimately we play against pretty much older teams every week, outside of a couple. So these guys are so experienced, they've been around it. Some have been pro, some have played in college. The levels of experience are vast. So for our guys that are 15, 16, 17, it's a challenge. So I think we got to grips with it towards the end. But yeah, definitely there were some learning experiences, I would say, in the first 4 to 5 games.
Yeah, that I think impressed much of the staff at ASMG. We're talking about a very young team that you have there, and like you said, you're playing generally against older teams, but it's been impressive the consistency that we see. You mentioned early in the season you had a little bit of a struggle just getting that consistency going and down pat, but you were winning, and that turned into somewhat of a dominance as the season went on. And what's really impressive to, I think, the neutral out there is when you're watching these Unite teams play, you're playing each week, depending on what team you're playing a different style, a different age group, a different level of experience, but the result seems to be the same thing. What do you attribute that success to? Is it just the preparation that you're able to have and the time you have with the players in training, or the recruitment of the players? What really is the secret there?
Yeah, I don't think there is a secret. I think it's a little bit of a mixture of everything. I think we're in a fortunate position that we do get to train every day, that we're around each other a lot. Our understanding of each other as people, let alone soccer players, I think is crucial. The players, the players do it all. The players are fantastic. They're receptive of the information. They're mature for their age. They understand that a big part of our development as people and as soccer players is winning, and understanding that there may be different ways to win. We may win when we're not playing well. We may win when we play really well, which is a bonus. But I think the understanding of the moment, their ability to understand the game within it. There's only so much I can do when the game is going on. Ultimately, it's up to them to understand the situations they're in and kind of decipher the solution from within. And we've seen that numerous of times. I'm very fortunate. I'm not the best coach in the world. I'm very fortunate to work with really, really good players. And then they do a lot of it. But I think that what the league brings for us as an academy is just as you mentioned, it's the different matchup we have each week. It could be a unbelievable tactical opponent. It could be a superior physical opponent. It could be, a mix of both. It could be a different formation that we face that we, have rarely seen, or a different problem. So I think that's what the league throws at us. And especially when we play away from home, it can be, we take on a very good Dalton team this weekend. That at the last game, it was a very emotional game. It was a stand packed full of fans, which is something that we don't see a lot, especially when we're at home. Everything is comfortable when we play at the training ground. We train on that field every day. So I think the away aspect of things, and then also just the diversity of the teams that we play, tactically, technically, physically, mentally, it's a challenge also. So yeah, the players do a lot of it in summary, but yeah, I think the league is great for our development on a whole.
Right, right. Well, let's get into that game right quick. And you mentioned that the game you had previously with them, it ended in a 2-2 draw. And Dalton United has been another a surprise, really. I think everybody that's a promoted team from Division One. They won the Division One championship last season, and this season they've won the regular season championship. Just pipping you guys by a point at the very end there. It could have gone either way. And so now, as you get prepared for that, I mean, what are your thoughts on facing Dalton United again in such a setting? You're going to be playing away, since the home team gets the advantage through the playoffs. How's that preparation going? Are you ready to get those guys out there and compete for that title?
Yeah, I think it's one of the rare weeks as a coach where you really don't want to train. You just want to fast forward and get to game day.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's why we train, is to play in the games. And I think we, reflecting upon that game and the circumstance, I was so proud of the boys for, we had the red card, I think 30 minutes in. And it was really, really incredible to even go 2-1 up. And we were disappointed with the way the game ended as a tie, but we take great heart from that. I think we're also in a better place now as a team. I think we're in a really good moment. We're really excited. We're excited to go back up there. We're excited to experience the emotion again. And yes, it was difficult, but I think we only, more often than not get better in difficult moments. So a really challenging game, a Dalton United team that, yes, I think is a surprise, but also they have some unbelievable players. Tony Saldana has played in college. Kobe Perez, an unbelievable career at Mercer University. So yes, a surprise as a team and maybe a name, but if you look at some of the players they have, it's no surprise. So we're really fortunate to play against a really good team in the final. And like I said, I think our players, us as a group, as a club, as a team, want to go there and kind of put that tie right. I think we were really disappointed with the way it finished. So yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting game. I'm really, really excited to see just the pressure cooker that is the final and how we can perform under that pressure. I think ultimately our job as an academy is to get the players ready for those pressure moments and playing in front of crowds, playing in moments where, we're going to suffer. And I'm really excited to see that for these young men. I think they're ready for it. And yeah, it's been a pleasure working with the group. And I think we can go one more, I think.
Coach, you had mentioned that, obviously at this level, you have a high turnover of players. Players come in, the youth players come in, they get to the next step, they go on to Atlanta United 2 or to college. You have a lot of college commitments right now on your team. Can you tell us a little bit about that success, but also the challenge of keeping, the team at a level when there is such a turnover of talent, season after season?
Yeah, it's I think it's kind of part and parcel of what we do, and we're kind of used to that. I think it's really important for us as a club to understand that there are numerous pathways for our kids. So, if they're not moving on to the first team or ATL2, then, our duty by them as people and as players is to, place them in good situations in college. So that's part and parcel of it. And obviously we continue to monitor them through their journey, whether it be in college or elsewhere. But I think the most important thing for us is managing them, helping them. And then through the turnover is, I think we're all aligned at the academy with, whether it be, U12, U13, U14, U19. I think we all teach the same things. We teach off the same game model, the same principles. So the transition is pretty seamless. I think it's just honestly, it's just the acclimatization, to the league, because we play in MLS Next, which is fantastic, but obviously a developmental pathway, whether as you get into UPSL and you get into the twos and you get into the first team, a lot more is about winning. And the fun is in that. The fun is in the games. It's in the emotions we talked about. It's in the moment. So I think that's the biggest thing in managing the turnover is you get into a really good place with the group and then they move on, which is the frustrating thing. But also the challenge at the same time is you continue to have to build again and go again. And it's, every team is somewhat of a different team each year. So every team faces a different challenge. We're fortunate that we continue to have good players. That does help. And it sounds silly, but you have good players, you usually win a lot of games. But it's just a lot of fun. And I think we owe it to the players to keep doing what we're doing, keep continuing on, and we try our best with, whichever group we have, and usually they're a fantastic group. So managing the transition is tough, but it's all part and parcel of it. And again, we have fantastic groups at every age level. So usually it's not a big issue. It's just the adaptation to being in a league against older players, against players that understand what it takes to win, that have been there, that have won before, and us having to go into that and try and compete and win against them. That's the biggest challenge, I think. But again, I think the league does an unbelievable job for us of teaching that. And, we won't win every game. We won't play well every game, but it's important to understand that. And from the players' point of view, it's important to understand that they're not going to win everything. They're not going to win every game. And, I look back on the season and we lost 2-1 to Rovers at home, and it was a torrential downpour, and we lost on a 35-yard goal that the best keeper in the world wouldn't have saved. Yeah. And you go into the locker room afterwards and you're like, it is what it is. And it's hard to explain sometimes. Yes, we didn't play particularly well. Did we deserve to win the game? Probably not on the day, but you've lost to an unbelievable goal in a game that you probably should have tied. And it's okay, on to the next. There's not always a perfect solution or explanation to it. It's a crazy game, and in a league which is very competitive, that you see some teams that are at the top, they're at the bottom this year. So it's a crazy league, but one that helps us out massively, I think, developmentally, whether they're going into the twos to progress onto that, or if they're going into college. So the league is perfect, I think, for this U19 group.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like in your shoes, it's sort of a bittersweet type of situation. You coach up the success of these players, and that puts them on to the next level beyond you, and that's what you want to see. But then you lose that, and then you have to, like you say, you start all over again. But that's part of the enjoyment and the challenge, so to speak, of your position there. And
I think I think just to add on to that, I think our success is the players. It's not, of course, as we all have a little bit of an ego here and there. I would love to win the final this weekend. Don't get me wrong. I'd be lying to you if I said we didn't want to win the trophy and lift it after the game. But ultimately, if one or two players go and play for the second team or play for the first team, or go to be conference champions at different colleges or all Americans, I mean, that's the success. Ultimately, as the coach, you work in the shadows, and it's about the players and their success. So yes, the winning is important. We'd all love to do it, but ultimately losing them is a good thing in our environment. If you're usually losing players to a team that is in theory superior, it's a job well done by the player and the staff. So yeah, it's bittersweet. I understand what you mean, but I think we're all aligned in thinking that if we can push these players on, then that's for them and what's best for them. So that's ultimately what we're about. But yes, I'd be lying to you a little bit if we didn't want to win this Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, I totally see that with the emotion that we see in these games with these players, and when they reach that success and move on. I mean, that just shows what type of organization you have there, but it also attracts more players that have that talent who want to get to that next level. They want to be a part of that organization. So it's a good organization to be churning out this type of talent and preparing them for a professional career. So we've had the fortunate opportunity to see and broadcast several of your games this season, and we're going to be there on Saturday as well to do that again. And it's just amazing to see the progress that the league has made and that these individual teams are making. And it's a joy because it's all about preparing them to that next level. So I just want to congratulate you on the success you've already had this first season. It's been a storming season, I'm sure, for you, and a lot of things that have happened. But we look forward to more of this, not just this season, but as we go on to the next season. So want to thank you for taking time out to talk to us right now in preparation before this championship game, and look forward to seeing you beyond that as well.
Yes, of course. Yeah, we'll be around. It'll be different players, myself on the bench, but I'm sure some different staff around it too at some point. But yeah, Atlanta United will continue. So we're excited, and we'll see you Saturday. We're excited for a really emotional, high-level soccer game that's going to be a lot of fun, I think, to tune into or be there live. I think it's a really good advert for Georgia soccer too. I think two really good teams, lots of good players, and a really good strong Georgia division in UPSL.
Sounds good, Coach. Well, thanks again, and we wish you well for the weekend. We'll see you on Saturday.
See you Saturday. Thank you very much.
All right.